Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Video, so back on another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't pay attention to start, shall we? Today we have Lyrical Monasterio, Clarissa Set 2 deck profile. So obviously, needless to say, Set 1 didn't really change much from Set 2, despite the fact of the addition of 2 other cards, because you want to keep your, I almost called it friends, because that's what it reminds me of, but like, you want to keep your, Earnescorrects mostly together at 4 of, so you can see them easier. At least that's how I do it. If there's a build that doesn't have them at 4, fair enough, but I prefer to have it at 4 because I'm not lucky enough to use this deck without having them all at 4. So let's go ahead and step off start, shall we? First up, we have a starter in Dignified Will, Clarissa, grade 0, boost 5k shield, 6k base, auto wins, root upon if you win second draw card. Then to special about its standard starter, it is one of my, it is my favorite starter out of all of the Lyrical decks. Like, if I had to pick by art, it goes, this is the starter that I like the most. The grade 1 profile Rose is the grade 1 I like the most. Grade 2 goes to Kiora. Grade 3, they're all ties, because I don't like any of them more than I like the others. But in terms of design-wise. But yeah, standard starter, another special, you can use whatever starter you want, but I prefer this, just this starter. Then we have a trigger lineup. 1 over trigger in Demonic Fever, Garviera. Grade 0, boost 50k shield, 5k base. Over trigger, you may have 1 over trigger. Different moves a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, plus +1 for the turn. And if you revealed it during draw tech, activate a general effect, which is during this fight, you get during your turn all your rare cards get +10. As it is with most of the other Lyrical decks, you drive check this, you are probably winning that turn, or you are winning the turn after, because you're, depending on what turn you pulled this on, because telling you what, having to guard a 1 million attack is one thing. Having to guard a 1 million attack of a rear guard that is probably restanding is another thing. And having to guard the attack of 3 to 4 attacks with 3 of them getting plus 20k to columns, yeah, very dangerous. So Garviera is really good. I mean, you can use any of the Lyrical Monsters over trigger. I just prefer Garviera because it's the closest thing to a Dragon Girl, so one of. Then our normal triggers. 3 copies of Aplomb Sight. Grete, draw trigger, grade 0, boost, 5k shield, 5k base, standard draw trigger. Now, you may be wondering, why am I not using the effect draws or any of the effect triggers? It is because Dragon Girls. If there are Dragon Girl triggers, I'm putting them in the Dragon Girl deck. There's probably a Dragon Girl heal, and if I was paying attention, I probably would have shoved it in here, but I didn't, so yeah. But I have Dragon Girl draws, crits, and fronts, which means I'm not running the effect ones unless all of them were a part of those typings, which they are not, so yeah, the draw wins. We don't need that many draws, though, because Clarissa has it on hit to let you draw. We got front triggers, which add more power to your already dangerous attacks, because killing your opponent's board and giving all your units +5 isn't good enough. You gotta give another 10 just to make sure that they die. So 4 fronts, and then we have 4 crits in Grinning Dragon Scale Ilse. I swear, every front from this every crit from this nation, except for one, and I always forget, no, except for the Felt Rosa one, hate me with a burning passion, and I don't know why they hate me. I don't know what I've done to these crits, but they all seem to just not want to show up when I need them. But Ilse is, she's a crit that's a Dragon Girl, so I have to run her. Then we have 4 heals in Languid, Relaxation, Marguerite. I'm pretty sure there's a Dragon Girl heal, but I was too lazy to figure out if there actually was. But if there is a Dragon Girl heal, imagine that going in place of this. But either way, the heal still works as this, because it kind of reminds you of a Dragon Girl, because the closest thing I can get to one. Then we have our grade 1s. 4 copies of our first Earnescorrect supporter, Trilby. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 5k base, auto rear. When your Vanguard attack hits, it gets +5 for the turn. Now, most decks, that wouldn't be that powerful, because Vanguard only swings once, if possible twice, which means it's only +10. But in this deck, that's a +20. I mean, +15 at the very least, because Vanguard can swing at 3 units at once. Or if I'm wrong, it could swing at 4 units at once, which means this gets a guaranteed +20 if the Vanguard hits all of them. Which is good, because, this deck can just easily wipe out board. And then not to mention the Vanguard has an on-hit ability, allowing you to draw and get power off it. So, yeah, Trilby is, despite the fact that 5k being very misleading, it's actually very good and one of the deck's better cards, except this thing never goes off when I use it, or even more is that it is never useful when I use it, because the column I put it in normally just gets PG'd anyways, because normally those are the columns I put triggers on. But 4 copies of Trilby, just because it's good and it can definitely force out a PG. And then we have 4 copies of Earnescorrect supported Leona. The thing that you protect with your life, and then you set it up by calling another one to protect it with your life. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear. When your other rear guard with Earnescorrect and its card name is retired during your opponent's turn, if this unit was on rear, soul blast 1 and discard 1, put the retired unit to hand. So you're losing guarding power. And I say Guardian Power because this deck really does require you to have Earnescouts with different names. So, which means if you're bouncing it to hand, most likely there was only one copy on board, unless you really don't want to lose it, but you don't want to throw it away for Guardian Power, which means you are effectively just losing Guardian Power, and you're losing Soul, which isn't a main resource of this deck. But in exchange, you're going to keep your Earnescorrects on, like, alive, and then call them back next turn. And this is honestly the best Earnescorrect out of them all, to some extent. Like, I argue this and the grade 2 one that can search are both the best, because the grade 2 one can get you set up, and this one makes it so that it's harder to kill them. Literally, you only need 4 rear guards for this deck to hit its maximum potential, which means you get a 5th one. Do what you wish with that 5th one, but I prefer to set up a 5th copy of this thing on board if I have it. I mean, a 2nd copy of this thing on board if I have it, because that means they have to kill both of them before my board starts getting nuked. So, and one of them is going to get bounced back to hand. So Leona's really good. She's an amazing support card, and I love her with all my soul. Give her 4 of. I think this is the one thing all Earnescout players can agree on, regardless if you are good at the game or not. This thing's a 4 of, and it needs to stay at a 4 of. Then we have 3 copies of Astonish, Talent, Rugena. I completely forgot to change the order of these cards to make it make sense. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto rear guard at the end of the battle to boosted a unit with Earnescorrect in its card name. If you have Vanguard, Clarissa in its card name, Soul Boss 1, retire it. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 or less Earnescorrect, add it to hand, and then shuffle your deck. So, yeah, another Soul Blaster. Not really that good. But, on the bright side, 1, the attack doesn't have to hit. It just has to boost a unit that has Earnescorrect in its card name, aka your entire board. And 2, it literally searches for any Earnescorrect, including your grade 3. I find it funny, though, how it specifies grade 3 or less, implying that we're going to get a grade 4. I might be wrong, but it just implies that with the way its skill is worded. But, you know, getting just a free search of your entire deck is amazing, and I like it. So, 3 of. There's no reason not to run out 3 of. Then in our last grade 1 is 1 copy of Serious Challenger Clarissa, who goes in the ride deck. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when it's placed on Vanguard Circle by riding from Dignified with Clarissa. Never mind, you do need this one as your starter, so don't pick anything else if you're planning on using this ride line. Look at top 7, choose up to 1 grade 1 or less with Earnescorrect in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle the rest into the bottom of the deck. Yeah, you gotta shuffle it to the bottom of the deck, but hey, at least you're getting a free Earnescorrect out of it. That's grade 1 or less, so you're getting either this one or this one. Always pick this one. And then choose Vanguard during your turn if you have no rear guards, gets +5. So that's good, you know. Early game, sometimes people, rarely I see this, but sometimes people will guard the Vanguard attack because they're always worried about taking damage early. Yeah, so it makes it slightly harder for them to guard, but most of the time that doesn't matter anyways. So, good card. Now you may be wondering, where are the PGs? Yeah, there are none. I teched out the PGs for this. You may be wondering, is that really a smart idea? My answer to that is, maybe. You know, it works for me. It's the same thing with Brantgate's thing, where it works in the sense that if you are crazy enough, it won't bother you, but if you are sane, then it will bother you immensely, because Clarissa can generate enough hand cards to where they are fine for 2 turns, 2 or 3 turns, I might add, unless your opponent is actively going tryhard. When I mean actively going tryhard, I mean like Bruce, grade 4, everything in the front row got an extra crit, and you're at 4 damage at the start of this turn tryhard. But otherwise, you are fine. and like the deck can generate enough hand, it can bounce your stuff back, and it allows for more space. That's why I don't run PGs. It might be a smart idea, it may be a dumb idea, but from what I've learned from Nirvana and playing that Orphis deck, you don't need PGs to be good, as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as you're not going up against very specific matchups. But yeah, so it's fine. 1 copy of Ride Deck Clarissa. And then on to grade 2s. 4 copies of the other thing I tech the PG down for. Smiling Together Jizyah. Grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, continues guard circle. All units with Earnescorrect in their card names get plus 10k shield. So even though you should never guard with Earnescorrects unless you are desperately depending on it, worst case scenario, if you have to do it, they're all 15k shields. No, not just, it says units, which means the grade 3 count as well. So the grade 3 is a 10k shield, and all your other ones are 15k shields. So worst case scenario, you can rely on those for guarding. So automatically that makes it really good. And then continues guard circle, all your rear guards with Earnescorrect in their card names cannot be hit. So if your opponent's attacking into your rear guard, because they know it's going to fuck you over, with a big ass number that you can't guard otherwise you would die or you'd lose a lot more hand cards, this is the equivalent to a PG for that column. Except it's a continuous skill, and it's not a sentinel, which means cards that say auto abilities cannot activate, and cards that say your opponent cannot use sentinels, or cards of a certain grade, gets around it unless it specifically says grade 2 or less, grade 2 or less, grade 1 or greater. Jizyah is an amazing card. It is an amazing card. It is perfect for last-ditch defending, and it is amazing for defending the things that you need constantly on board. 4 of Jizyah, I want to hear nothing of it. 4 copies of Earnescorrect member Katalyn, my favorite out of the group, but in my opinion, like one of the least useful. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear when it attacks. When the attack of your Earnescorrect leader Clarissa on Vanguard hits, counterblast 1, discard 1, stand it. I really hope we don't get a grade 4, because if we do, this thing becomes useless. Like, at least the other support for the other grade 4 decks, most of them, minus the one from Kari, most of their support was like usable because their double rare had 2 effects. One that, yes, required the main grade 3 specifically, but one that didn't require the main grade 3 specifically and just focused on the deck's main gimmick. This one requires the main grade 3 specifically, which means if we get a grade 4, this becomes effectively useless outside of its name. But it's still good. I do like Katalyn. Giving her a restand is amazing, especially because you can just stack power to it with Clarissa and other triggers, so there's no reason not to run her in the deck at 4, especially because she has Earnescorrect in the card name. Now if we get a grade 4, we might tech her down depending on what the grade 4's name is, or if we get other Earnescorrects, but she's still an amazing card, so 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of, I think it's a competition between these two, who is the better Earnescorrect. Earnescorrect member Evelyn, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 8k base, auto when is placed on rearguard circle from hand. There's a reason why it says that. If your Vanguard is Earnescorrect leader Clarissa, so the grade 3, counterblast 1, search your to 1 grade 2 or less card with Earnescorrect in its card name, reveal it, and if you have no rearguards with the same card name as that card, call it to an open rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. The thing is, though, I don't understand why it says from hand. Oh, no, you can loop this, actually. Yeah, I don't know why it restricts it from hand. What, are they afraid because you can't combo this with Kari. Unless, they made some bullshit way for you to call this during your drive check. I mean, yeah, no, unless they made some... actually, no, I guess I can see it with very certain specific bunny-looking card from Lyrical Monasterio and very certain cards from Bermuda Triangle that could abuse the shit out of this. But the fact is, you can loop this. Because it just says search a deck for a grade 2 or less Earnescorrect in its card name and reveal it. And then if you have no rear guards, you may call... Oh, never mind, I just read it wrong. I thought it said add it to your hand. No, it doesn't add it to hand. You have to call it, and if you don't, it gets shuffled. So, unfortunately, you cannot pick herself, because then you would have a unit of the same name that just gets shuffled. But she is a way to set up your board, so if you call her, you get something else. So, you get 2 units down in one go, and the main grade 3 doesn't use counterblast, and neither does the main order. So, 4 of Evelyn, because she's really good at her job. And yeah, like I said, it's a debate, because this one gets you field, this one makes it so that your units can't die without a fight to the death, so 4 of. Then our last unit, or last grade 2, is our grade 2 of the ride line, accurate interval Clarissa, 1 of in the ride deck, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto when is placed on Vanguard circle by riding from serious challenger Clarissa, soul blast 1, look at top 7, choose to 1 grade 2 or less Earnescorrect in its card name, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle the rest into the bottom of the deck. The same thing as the grade 1, except it costs a soul blast now, and it can search for 1 grade higher. And continues Vanguard during your turn if you have no rear guards, gets +5. Okay, that one's slightly more useful than this one, because, like I said, most of the time people just take it. It's rare occasion that people actually guard this one. But this is, for some reason, people who choose to guard the Vanguard at grade 2. I never understand why. Yeah, they pulled a crit last turn, I can see it. Or if they're playing Dark States and they pulled the Overtrigger, I could also see it. But why guard the Vanguard at grade 2? What's wrong with going to 3 damage before grade 3? I don't understand it. It was never something that occurred to me, but okay, sure. Makes it slightly harder for them to defend, I guess. 1 of in the right deck. And then on to grade 3s. Our only grade 3 and our main grade 3 is 4 copies, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck, of Earnescorrect leader Clarissa. Grade 3 turns to Persona Ride 13k base. Auto is placed on Vanguard circle by riding from accurate interval Clarissa. Counterblast 1, search to 1, aim to be the strongest idol, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. They wasted that ability so much. Why did it have to be the grade 2 specifically? Because you cannot use this if you Persona Ride and then counterblast 1 to search for the order. You can only use this when you ride from this. So you get a one-time search. Unless you have a way to switch that unit back onto the Vanguard circle, you get a one-time search. I greatly question why, because there's there was no other way to search the order except for one specific card, and it's an on-hit. And it's not an Earnescorrect. So, not exactly sure why they made this a thing. Why they restricted that bad. Like, in my opinion, Clarissa was never crazy. Maybe if it did have that ability, it would be a lot crazier. But I'm not exactly sure. Either way, it's a good ability, just wish it wasn't that restrictive. And then Auto Vanguard Circle, when its attack hits, draw a card, choose one of your units, choose one of your rear guards with Earnescorrect in its card, and it gets +5 for the turn. So, yeah, well, on hit, not that impressive. I mean, yeah, it can hit anything, but only on hit doesn't seem that impressive. Until you figure out what this does. Aim to be the strongest idol. Grade 3, normal order, play if you have 5 or more units with Earnescorrect and their different card names. Okay, that right there, I'm reading into it now. This one specifies grade 3 or lowers. Maybe that is just me reading into it, but this one, they would not say 5 or more Earnescorrect in their different card names when we only have 5. They wouldn't say or more in different card names. They're going to give us a 6th one. Bushy themselves confirmed it in their wording, and if they don't, we are boycotting. But anyways, until the end of turn, all units with Earnescorrect in their card name get +5k power. So first off, this order's for free. The only downside is you have to have 5 units, at the very least. But the order's for free, and you already get a free +5 to board for the turn. Like, not just these rear guards, or 1 unit, it's everything on your board that has Earnescorrect in their card names. Which means if that last rear guard is also an Earnescorrect, your entire board gets +5, which means each column swinging for +10. Cool. And then if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, choose one of your Earnescorrect leader Clarissas, and it gets continuous vanguard. When this unit would attack, choose 3 of your opponent's vanguard or rearguard circles, and this unit battles all the units on the chosen circles. So Clarissa can hit 3 units at once, which means it could swing at front row, it could swing at vanguard and back row, it could swing for like the 3 most important units on your opponent's board and the vanguard circle, or if you know they're just going to guard the vanguard, swing at the rear guards, use Clarissa's on-hit effect to get more power to this thing, restand it, and then make your columns extremely bigger with this on one side, this on the other side, and your opponent beginning to question, why did I PG the first vanguard attack from earlier? Aim to be the strongest idol is genuinely one of the best orders out there. It is for free, gives your units a frick ton of power for no apparent reason, because 5k you may not seem like much, but then when you shove it with this, it's obviously a lot more. You get 3 draws off of it, and you can nuke 3 units at once. Clarissa is a greatly questionable card, and I do not understand why they made it the way it did, but it's good as it is, so 4 of aim to be the strongest idol. If only we have a better searcher besides the on-hit card and the... If only we had a better searcher than the on-hit card and the only on-ride from grade 2. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around this deck is interesting. It's definitely not my favorite aesthetic-wise. Frankly, I don't care for this deck at all. But I do say one thing. It is powerful. Gets 3 attacks. I'm sorry, not gets 3 attacks. Kills 3 units in 1 attack. Possibly nets you a draw of 3 and 15 to 1 unit, or some combination of 5s to other units. And it can just make your unit so powerful on first grade 3 turn. Like, first grade 3 turn, if you're going second, it's going to be your most powerful turn. The turn you play this is going to be your most powerful turn. And then afterwards, if you can keep getting it, cool, good for you, but this deck has no reliable way to get it. But we're also getting a 3rd Lyrical set this year, so if we get it, cool. We will probably get a solution to this problem and an easier way to get this into hand. But... yeah, so as for now, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, don't to the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all next one. Don't forget to stand up here, Vanguards.